Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today I'm going to show you around the car that has replaced my Defender, or shall I say the Defender that has replaced my Defender, but they are two totally different cars. I'm excited to show you as to what I think about it. I know that I'm late to the show. They've been out for coming on 4 years this year. This one's different because this one's mine, so excited to show you. So I think it's only fair for those of you that don't know to tell you a little bit about my old Defender, of which I still absolutely adore. I've spent an enormous amount of money onto it and I made it like a proper Defender. I've actually made several videos about this car, so if you haven't checked them out, please check them out. But let me show you around the two. So here we are in my brand new second-hand, little Matt Armstrong reference there, Land Rover Defender 110 commercial. It's the D250 SE, and I wanted the SE because it comes with a few of the trick bits that I quite like, and wanted to feel like it was a little bit more kind of long-lasting for what I kind of needed. So the SE comes with these electric heated leather seats, and they've got the memory functions as well on the door, which is a nice feature to have. It also has the third seat within the middle, so of course being the commercial doesn't have the rear seats. You see this big bulkhead behind me. I thought the very rare occasion where I might need to give two people a lift, it's really useful having that centre base, because when it's down it's a great armrest. As you can see, it's got the cup holders in the actual base or the back of the seat with charge points. One thing I've noticed is the amount of charge points in this car. One, just a standard USB. I feel like there should have been a couple of those, but there's just one standard USB and the rest of the USB-Cs. But I guess with the later phones that are coming out and things like that, everything's kind of going that way. But it would have been nice just to have the USB, another one down there or something like that. And then it's got the 12-volt power sockets all over too. What I really quite like about it is the colour combination. I've got silver with the black back on the exterior, but silly little things in the sense of, obviously this stripe here on the door is the colour of the exterior car. I don't know why I like it so much, but the fact that that silver is the same as the outside, and then if you used to have a black one, it would be black, green it's green, blue it's blue, things like that. I don't know, I think it just allows for a little bit more individuality. Really pleased with the materials they've used in the truck, which I'm sure you've seen on many other reviews, but it's nice enough to feel that you're in something that's you know, a nice car, but also hard wearing enough and easy enough to clean, that when I go up to the moors with my two border collies and they get absolutely filthy, as do I can jump into this not worrying about my lovely luxury interior that I'm getting absolutely filthy. You know, it's got the rubber mats down the bottom that you can peel out and just wash them off, and again, all of this material, as mentioned, is very, very easy to keep clean. It's only had one previous owner to me. It has done 47,700 miles now, so I've done just over 2,000 miles in it in the month or so that I've owned it, and I have to say I'm very impressed with the drivetrain in it. It's the D250 as mentioned, so that is a 3-litre inline turbo diesel, and it's also using mild hybrid technology. The thing that makes it mild is the fact that it never solely runs on its battery power or anything like that. It's purely there to kind of help the engine, help the tech that's already in it to become a little bit more efficient and deliver the power a little better. So you've got 3 different variants of the diesel engine: the D200, the D250 and the D300. The D200, I've driven a couple of those, and I don't think there's anything necessarily wrong about them. they're not very quick, but then you don't buy a Land Rover Defender to be quick. I just felt that the D250 was probably a little bit more comfortable for what I wanted it to do, because obviously I'll be doing a fair bit of towing and I do quite a bit of mileage. So when you are sat on the dual carriageway, it's nice just to have a little bit more responsiveness from the throttle should you want it. The D300s are fantastic. A friend of mine's got the D300. His is the X Dynamic with a huge spec, and he's got a gorgeous black exterior with the tan interior. Really smart car, but almost too nice for what I needed it for. There's quite a common practice, if you like, with the commercials, is to get rid of the bulkhead, is to put a bench seat within the back. But although I say a bench seat, it is 3 proper seats, because apparently all the wiring and everything, all the mechanisms for the rear windows are still there. You can take the blanking plates off, and then you can put the switches in place, of which you've then turned it into a car. And yes, I can understand definitely why people do that, because within the UK, when buying a commercial vehicle through your business, it's a lot more tax benefits for you by doing that rather than having just your everyday car. But to be honest, the practicality that I need it for, as mentioned with my 2 dogs and just ferrying a load of stuff around, I'm going to keep it absolutely as is. I think it's a far more practical solution for me, because as mentioned, we like to go up in the moors, we get absolutely filthy, and having the bulkhead there means they can't come through to here, bringing all of the muck and the grime with them. So I'll definitely be keeping it as a commercial vehicle, but it doesn't bother me at all. The only thing that I have noted from driving a couple of the others that I've driven and the commercial is actually your visibility. As sometimes you'll notice when you're coming out of an awkward junction or something like that, I don't think you necessarily realise how much you look through the rear door windows, and especially over your shoulder this way as well, because obviously it's all blanked off, so you can't actually see the traffic. So you have to really rely on the mirrors. Obviously it's got the blind spot monitoring, which I think they all come with as standard. It's a very good feature, but I've also got these tiny little like, I don't know, fisheye type mirrors on the corners, which are really helpful, just for seeing those things that are maybe in your blind spot easier than you can if you were looking back. So the commercial is slightly different from the road going, including the sound system as well. So this does have the Meridian speaker system, which is a fantastic system, but only within the front. There's no reason for them to put it through to the back, because as a van, you're not going to have any passengers back there. Although I have to say, it is still a massive improvement on the sound system that you get in what is the original Defender, which is what my green one had. I know you can do upgrades and stuff like that, but it's never going to be with what these are, with speaker placements and stuff. So yeah, I wanted the SE, as mentioned. It comes with a little bit more spec. They all come as standard with this screen. You can also get a bigger screen than this, which I would have liked, but it wasn't necessarily a deal breaker for me. This one was offered to me from a trader friend of mine. He had a few actually. He buys quite a lot of Land Rover product, but this one I think just kind of stood out to me. I wanted it to be silver with the black pack. I think it looks really quite cool. The black pack gives you obviously the mirror caps, the wheels, the black tread plates on the bonnet, quite a cool vinyl thing as well on the bonnet, and then also on top of that it had the snorkel and the roof rack, of which the snorkel I doubt I will ever be in a situation where I need to use it, but it looks quite cool in my opinion. The roof rack, again, I actually do use it. I've used it a couple of times already, even in the short period that I've had the car. I just find them ever so useful, and we're going to be going across to Europe in the summer, of which, rather than compromising the space for the dogs in the back, we'll put a roof box on, so it's really handy to have that roof rack. My only gripe with it is if it's a windy day and you're travelling at dual carriageway speeds, it's rather noisy. You can definitely hear the air tumbling through. It's not going to be like a road going car, and eventually you do kind of get used to it, and you still have to remember that the versatility of it is far more practical than the versatility of the old shaped Defender that I was driving around in, because I think that wouldn't have necessarily made a difference if I had a roof rack on it or not. You're always just going to get a huge amount of road noise. So touching more on the usability of the truck, I've jumped into it and found everything ever so easy to use, and I'm in and out of cars all the time, and you kind of get used to different systems relatively quickly. but there is something about this that just, it feels like it's still got a raw ruggedness to it, which I absolutely loved about my old Defender, but with just obviously an immense amount of specification over and above what that had. And I can imagine staying relevant for quite some time, but who knows with tech. But you've got your electric windows in the front. Obviously I don't have the rear window switches. They are relatively easy to put in, so I'm told. The memory settings for your seats up here. It also has this cool light on your door card too, that when you're parked up and just about to leave, if there's a car coming up through your blind spot, that light flashes to tell you that there's a car coming, to try and stop you from opening your door into traffic, which I thought was quite cool. It's got grab handles everywhere, and I think that kind of brings it back to that raw ruggedness. It is really trying to be a workhorse, very much so on the commercial element. For me, I think it does an absolutely fantastic job. So you've got grab handles as you're coming in here, storage everywhere. I almost think it pays to the previous Defender a little bit of almost like a nod back to it, if you like, because in my old Defender I used to have my like cubby back there, of which it doesn't have a glove box, but I just put everything into it, whether it be, you know, water bottles or sunglasses or whatnot, and it's still very much the same style here. Obviously newer design and newer materials with charge points and things like that, but I look at it and it does remind me of the green one. So I think they have done a couple of tipping points to the old Defender. Steering wheel's fantastic. This kind of, I don't know what it is, it's like a hard wearing material around the outside's quite cool. Buttons, physical buttons, which I really quite like. I've been in a couple of the new Range Rovers and they've got the soft touch, which is nice, but I still very much prefer having the physical buttons. Usual steering wheel controls, you know, you've got your phone and your radio and your music and everything on this side. Cruise control and lane assist on this side. The digital dials are quite nice as well. You can change through what information that's displaying to you. I prefer to be a bit more of a traditional with the 2 dials, but I do have the map in the background, which I quite like, because it means that you can have your entertainment, whatever, on the screen in the centre. But yeah, very impressive with that. It's very nice and bright, very easy to navigate through, and I mean, not that you do much whilst driving, it's all kind of there, easy to use. As mentioned, the screen's really quite good. I've seen a couple of people that have moaned that it's maybe not quite as quick as its other competitors, but for me and the cars that I'm selling, I'm massively impressed with it. It's the best screen that I've used. The wireless Apple CarPlay is excellent. I wasn't anticipating that it would have that. I thought it would be a wired one, because a Land Rover Discovery that I've had a couple of times, they've always been wired Apple CarPlay. So the fact that it's wireless is a big bonus for me, because obviously I quite like to stream audio or Spotify and have the Waze app on there. So yeah, it looks fantastic. I think its usability is very, very good. You've got some cool information on the actual home screen, so you've got like slope assist. It tells you angles and things that you're at. Again, very much doubt that I'll need to be in those situations, but it's cool to look at. Got a compass and all your wheel info as to whereabouts they are and suspension heights, etc, etc. Although this one doesn't have the air suspension. This one's on the coils, but again, I really don't mind that kind of thing, because I think, you know, it's in some ways less to go wrong. If it had it, I certainly wouldn't be complaining, because I do think it provides a bit of a softer ride and everything. But with the 19-inch wheels and big profile tyres, it's very, very comfortable. One of my absolute favourite things that Land Rover have done, the differentiation between the Defender and the current Land Rover Discoveries and Range Rovers that they're running, is this panel here. And the reason being is it is physical buttons and dials. So on a lot of them, the dual climate controls and your seat controls and things like that are all on a touch screen, and I've said it in many of my videos, it's distracting to me. I prefer to be able to just press it and there we go. And another huge thing for me is the fact that the start and stop technology is also on a button, so I can turn that off every time I jump in. Pressing the dial there, you can do your seat temperatures. This has got the heated seats, doesn't have the ventilated. I'm sure the X Dynamics and the higher spec ones do, but got the dual climate control, got the physical buttons of what I would need, your heated front screen, recirculation, etc, etc. So very, very pleased that it is still physical buttons in that element. And the gear lever, when I was driving it for the first couple of days, I guess it's because I'm used to driving my old Defender and it being a manual, it sits quite far forward, not too far forward, but quite far forward into the dash. And I've grown to really quite like the fact that it's all, you know, a little bit that way, because it allows for the third seat here and the charge ports down the bottom and everything like that. It's very neatly done, in the sense that it's not too overbearing, that there's too much going on, but the tech that it has is phenomenal. One of the very favourite things about it, which again has been around for a little while, and it was also on an Audi A8 that I've had in stock and things like that, is the 3D cameras. I don't know what it is about it. I just think it's really cool. If anyone jumps into the truck and they're like, oh, you know, it's really cool, the first thing I show them is those 3D cameras. There's just something about them. I don't really use them that often. Obviously I use them when parking, but not like the views where it's showing you from different sides and things like that. So yeah, really quite impressed with that tech. The rear view mirror is also a camera. The camera sits on top of the back of the truck there. That took a little bit of getting used to, because obviously in the old Defender I'd ordinarily have the dogs in the back of it, and I didn't realise how much I relied on the rear view mirror to not only obviously look at what's behind me car wise, but also the back of the truck looking at the dogs. Can't see the dogs, and it took me a couple of days, embarrassingly enough, to realise that you can flick this one here down, it then turns back into just your ordinary mirror, and I can see through the grated bit there into the back to check on the dogs. Not that they never need much checking up on, but I think that's really quite cool to have. I'm ever so comfortable. I'm sat here, the seats are nice and wide, I've got my armrest here as well. The steering wheel is all electronically controlled with the adjustments, etc. It's very, very comfortable. I've been up to Bristol a couple of times and done some fairly long journeys already. It's excellent. I can sit here. It's got the adaptive cruise control, which I'll be honest, I'm not a massive fan of. But the best thing about this, and I've even tried it in other models and it doesn't turn off, is if you hold the button which is reducing your gap, it actually turns off the adaptiveness. I've said it in previous videos, but the reason for that being is if you're set your cruise control at 70 miles an hour and you're in a motorway situation, what's quite nice is you're approaching the car in front, you overtake and you pull back in, all whilst maintaining the 70 miles an hour. If you've got adaptive cruise control on, as you're approaching the car in front, you're then starting to match their speed, which is then obviously slowing you down. So then, you know, you realise, okay, so I'm going to have to override the cruise to pull out and overtake, and then hopefully it settles back down. It's just, I know it sounds so pernickety to say that, but having the adaptive cruise control that you're able to turn off is fantastic, because there are still situations where the adaptive cruise control is useful. If you're on a single lane average speed check or anything like that, I quite like to set it the speed, and if I'm approaching someone it matches it and I just follow them through. But to be able to turn it off was a big win, and again, it was only just messing around that I was able to kind of find that feature. MPG wise, in the 2,000 or so miles that I've had it, it's about 2,400. I've actually got it on my trip computer here. Again, let me just change that to the trip bank. I have averaged over 2,449.1 miles, 28.3 mpg. And when I've looked at it, when I'm doing the longer journeys on the motorway, I think I was getting about 31.9 going up to Bristol and back again. And as I say, with the mix of town driving and the lane driving that I do, to get 28.3, I thought that's massively impressive. Given the size of the vehicle, so 110, it always has necessarily, you know, some heavy stuff in the back and whatnot. And yeah, I just think like that's great. I can't gripe at that. I guess that's what the mild hybrid element is kind of helping the engine do, is to maintain some efficiency to it. So it's definitely a more fuel efficient vehicle than my previous Defender, that's for sure. And don't get me wrong, I still think that the sports and things like that are going to be more MPG, or give you a more economical run. But for me, and the practicality and the versatility that I need from a vehicle, I cannot gripe at 28.3. I think it's fantastic. As I say, I've already had stuff on the roof. I've crammed the back full of stuff. And another impressive thing is the underfloor storage is quite good. You know, we've been away for a weekend, obviously don't want to compromise the space for the dogs too much in the rear, so we've got a load of our stuff underneath the floor, all of it in fact, apart from the cool box that we took, of which that doesn't take up a huge amount of room, but because it's a big solid thing, you can't necessarily put that underneath the floor. You've also got storage box on the outside, or a lot of people refer it to be a lunch box. It does cover your view a little bit, not massively because the mirrors are huge, but you can't necessarily see the car behind you with that lunchbox on, but you can see it in your other mirrors, so it's nothing too dramatic, and it is very useful for muddy boots or whatever to shove those into there, or something that you wouldn't necessarily want to be putting into the car. But yeah, I can go on and on about this car. I've wanted one for absolutely ages. When they first come out, I'm thinking, okay, it's not a Defender, you know. The Defender has been the Defender for God knows how long, and now you're saying that this is the new Defender. But I have to say, having driven one now for a little bit, there are some tributes to the old one, and obviously sticking with modern times, it is a far better vehicle. Although I do miss driving my green Defender, it did have a bit more of a characteristic about it. You could always wave at other Defender owners, which I know sounds really sad, but no one waves at you in these new ones. I don't think they necessarily had the old ones in some cases, so they don't know that it's the thing you do. But no, I'm massively impressed. I think the tech in it is absolutely fantastic, and being a countryside boy and having the two dogs and everything, I think it's a fantastic and almost the perfect vehicle for me. But yeah, it again probably sounds very biased. I have absolutely adored driving my green one. I think it's an absolutely wicked car, but this is far better on the day-to-day things. It's a far more reliable beast to be able to take up and do the miles I'm doing and the towing that I'm doing. So yeah, I really hope that you've enjoyed my review, albeit a little bit behind the other YouTubers, but as I say, this one's a bit different because it's mine, and I've really enjoyed owning it so far. So yeah, hopefully we're going to take it on a few trips, of which if you guys want to see where we go in Europe in the summer, let me know in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel, it is really helping, and I look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thank you.